that we call framing the story. And what does that mean? Everyone has a story. Your brand, your business, your startup, your, whatever it is that you're trying to do, right? Your nonprofit, your sports team, everybody has a story. But how do you tell that story well enough that it will attract and retain clients? All right, so our tagline for our business is stories matter. We know how important it is to make sure that your stories are told in a way that it inspires, connects, and ultimately converts. People are interested in stories, not stats. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that, Danny?
It has to be compelling, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Brandon, what do you think?
Relatable. They want something that they can relate to, that they can follow along with.
1,000%. 1,000%. Any sports fans in here? Right? Okay. So yeah.
They're like,
yeah. If you watch this last Super Bowl, if you had any teams that were playing, whatever. Some of us might remember the scores. If you, we're betting, maybe you do remember the scores. Some of us might remember the scores, but I guarantee you, the bulk of us, we remember certain aspects of the game. Some of us, like my wife, she's not really into football, so she remembers the whole halftime show. She'll break it down for you, give you a whole synopsis and a thesis on it. But we remember those aspects that really help to tell the story of the culmination of an event like that, right? Also, the market is very crowded. We know in today's market is excessively crowded. TikTok, did I just say TikTok? TikTok, Instagram, all of these elements out there when it comes to social media is just completely flooded, right? How do you differentiate yourself from the market? Maybe you're not a TikTok person or you're not great at TikTok. Maybe you're not excellent at doing the Instagram reels, but you know your story. How do you tell that story that it is seen in a crowded market? Also, stories build trust. They build trust, they evoke emotion, and ideally, it compels people to action. We're going to show you how to do that today. So, what are we learning? We are going to talk about strategic storytelling. Because you have a story, Jess, it may not mean everybody wants to hear it, right? But how do you craft it in a way that someone here, someone there, people who are all different will still gravitate to you and want to hear that story, right? My wife has a lot of tattoos. Raise your hand. All right. So this is not truly her story, but it was one of the first things that attracted me to her was her tattoos. I love the artistry, right? My mom, who is 93 years old, she'll be 94 next week. My mom has never really seen tattoos, right? Unless they're on TV and they're on like thugs, right? So
she thought Jess was a thug.
Yeah, she thought Jen was a thug. So I wanted to craft a compelling story to my mom, right? And so I told my mom before I brought Jen over, I said, Mom, she was just recently released from prison. And that has been a story that has definitely stuck. Yeah. But it's been a story that has stuck. However, when we teach you how to do strategic storytelling, I don't want you to lie. I want you to be honest about your story, okay? But we're going to show you how to make it compelling. We're going to do that by utilizing our very own story framework. We have a few real-world examples, some case studies, some of our own clients that we've worked with that we're going to show you. And then afterwards, we're going to show you how to craft a compelling brand narrative. So how do you put all of this together that is uniform with your overall brand?
Yeah, and so when we talk about brand, let's keep in mind that your brand is not the title of your company, it's not your logo, but it's the impact that you have, and it's what your clients feel, and it's what they think of when they think of your organization, your company, right? So it's important that we think about that brand the right way.
Excellent. And so to Chris's point, when we are crafting stories, when I gave you that story about Jen being in prison, right? Obviously that was a lie. We don't want you just to craft tales, okay? We want you to be very intentional about telling your story. making sure that that story connects, converts, retain customers, but most importantly, how do you tell something in a succinct way that you can place it across all marketing channels and vehicles?
So we're going to do some big boy homework today, some big girl homework today, and we're going to talk about the science of storytelling.
Absolutely. So when we start talking about the psychology behind storytelling, I don't know how many of you have ever bought how many of you have ever bought like your dream car or dream vehicle? Anybody? Anybody? All right. Tree, tell me about that experience.
Well, I was dying of COVID, and
Golly.
Jesus, this is a story.
and I had told myself if I was going to die, I wanted to have a vehicle that I really, really wanted. So I went out and I bought it because I would have no regrets. Because if I died, I didn't have to finish paying for it.
But you didn't die.
Yeah, you didn't die.
So now I'm paying.
I love that story. So I actually have a very similar story, right? So I used to have two motorcycles. I have my dream motorcycle, all right? So I have my dream motorcycle, and then one day I had this lump on the back of my head, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. I have a tumor. And so I went to my wife and I said, listen, babe, I don't think I have long. There's this other motorcycle that I wanted. It was a cafe racer, a 1976 Suzuki that was turned into this beautiful cafe. And I went and bought it. However, it was an ingrown hair in the back of my head, and I'm still alive today.
You didn't die.
I didn't die. I sold the motorcycle. The point that I'm trying to make is that people are wired. We are wired to respond to emotions and not logic. So if you're trying to sell something, if you have a brand, if you have a business, you have an agency, right? There are many reasons that people can think of why they might need to use you, why they should use you. But man, if you want to make yourself stand out in the marketplace, evoke something in them. Make them feel like there's nothing or no other place that they should be other than working with you. Okay? Case study with that real quick. My wife just opened up her own salon. It's called the Moxie. And one of the things that my wife and I talked very heavily about, I said, listen, babe, like, what is it that you want to convey, right? There are so many salons here, just like there's so many churches here, right? There's like a salon on every corner. So how do you stand out from the pack? My wife had this ingenious idea. She said, well, I want to be vintage luxe. I had no idea what that meant. I was like, so I'm on ChatGPT. But we found all of these ideas, designs, things that would really showcase this notion of being vintage luxe, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, what does that have to do with here? But it all made sense. It's a part of her storytelling, okay? We went ahead and launched the Moxie, and my wife, God is good. She's been doing very well. People have been coming out. A lot of people responded to her just because of the way that it looked. They didn't see anything like that in Beaufort, right? It's all a part of the branding and the storytelling.
And storytelling focus.
Storytelling, strategic storytelling, once you have been able to evoke emotion, once people are able to connect, like Brandon said, the relatability, you are building trust. You are building trust.
Let's take it a step further though, because when we're talking about stories, and we're storytelling nerds, so we tell stories for a living, and this is what we do, right? But I want you to think strategically about the way that you tell your story, right? And we base a lot of this, what we do, on Donald Miller's story brand framework, where your company takes on not just your story, but you're focused on how your story enters into the stories of your clients. So I'll explain it to you this way. What does Shrek, work with me here, Shrek, Iron Man, Mulan, and Luke Skywalker have in common?
They're all heroes.
They're all heroes, right? But they also have something else in common. What do they have?
An origin story?
They definitely have origin stories, yeah, powerful kind of origin stories as well. But they all have mentors. They all have guides. Every compelling story has a hero, but it also has a guide. Irony here is that Shrek and Mulan's guide are played by the same person. Yeah, so the challenge with story brand marketing, the focus with your company is that you are finding the ideal client, who's the hero, who's the character, and what is their problem, right? Mulan, I guess she was trying to save her people from the invading army, right? And then they meet the guide. Yoda shows up out of nowhere, sitting on a little rock, right? And the guide gives them a plan that helps them to avoid failure and helps them to experience success, right? I want you to shift your storytelling so that you enter into the story of your ideal client. You are not the hero. I mean, I know this is, well, you started this company because, now we talked about that a little bit, right? Like why you do it. You need to identify your why. It's Simon Sinek. If you haven't read that book, you need to read that book. Start with why. They don't buy what you make, they buy why you make it. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, right? But the reason why you want to identify that story is because that helps you to enter into the story of your ideal client. You identify your ideal client and what it is that they need to overcome, and your focus is helping them, your service, your product is helping them to solve their problem, and then they become the success, they become the hero, and you win because they win, right? So if we shift our focus, and we're going to talk about, crafting our story, right? And making sure we put together that brand strategy, the strategic brand story. But as you're thinking about your story, you need to be thinking about how you're going to enter into the stories of your clients, because that's where we really win and that's where we do powerful work.
So before we press further ahead, you might be asking yourself, who are these two handsome guys up here? I know you were.
That's exactly what I was asking.
I hope you were. So Edify, who we are. Edify, we recently started our company back in January. We officially took off and we launched. Edify, we specialize in curating film for nonprofit agencies. So we find nonprofit companies, agencies, organizations that might need help with a savvy way of telling their stories. And we work with them in doing that. We also work with nonprofits who service youth. If you guys know Chris and I personally, you know that we are both passionate about working with young people. So if there are nonprofits that service youth and they say, well, listen, we are trying to come up with more technologically advanced, more digitally savvy programming for our kids, well, we've got you covered as well. We have a curriculum that we have devised where we provide nonprofits that service youth with that curriculum, a facilitator, and their youth will learn how to create Netflix-looking stories, okay? And all of us know this day and age, storytelling is more important than ever. A lot of stories are being eradicated. We also use augmented reality for nonprofits like museums and similar places that have exhibitions to tell stories. So, for instance, let's say you have a place like Penn Center. Through our proprietary tech, you can be a visitor out there, throw on some goggles. Dr. King's right there talking to you, and yes,
Walking
ma'am.
the
Jewish
campus.
History Museum, things like that.
Say it again.
The Jewish History Museum.
Yes, absolutely.
But
Thank
the
you.
concept is that we want to bring that same tech to spaces that wouldn't necessarily be able to afford it or access it.
No.
So we say that stuff all the time in big cities like New York, but nothing like that here.
Nothing like that
Little
here.
Beaufort.
And in a lot of areas that are historically rich, but maybe they're just digitally lacking. So, all right. So, our framework. We start off with your origin. What is your origin? Your origin story, like Jennifer said. Who, why, when did your business start? Then we look at the challenges or the problems that you solve. And by the way, this is the framework that we use for our clients. What problems do you solve? Then we think about the breakthrough. Chris and I, we're all about the breakthrough. We're all about, what hurdles or humps that you have to get over to achieve your business or be successful. Perfect example, maybe you are a hairstylist. And prior to being a hairstylist, you were a single mom, right? That is all a very unique story in of itself, and is very relatable to possibly a lot of your clients. Let's talk about that, okay? The mission. A lot of people like to say, I stand on business. Well, what is the business that you stand on? What is the reason of why you do what you do? And then lastly, in this framework, we look at the invitation. What is the action call to your clients? It can't just be buy from me, right? That doesn't work. Just like Chris said, it's not about what you are selling.
It's about why.
It's about the why.
So now, again, let's take this to the next level, right? Because if you haven't done this, then you not already have a company, right?
But we're going to do it today.
But the next level is now shifting it so that it has more of a story brand focus, and that you are focusing these same questions kind of more towards your clients, right? Because we're saying, how can people be a part of your story? But with story brand marketing, we flip it and we say, now how can you enter into their story, right? Because their story is the primary story, right? Your clients are the ones with the primary story that we need to help them win.
All right. So we're going to show you a few case studies. Jess, is it okay if we get the lights?
Yes.
All right, cool. You want?
You got it.
Okay. All right. So, and real quick, I don't know if we said this earlier, but Chris is actually our brand manager. So he is all about helping the clients make sure that they pull out the story that they need to pull out. Okay. All right. So Friends of Caroline Hospice, we had the opportunity to work with them, and they approached us with, hey, we need to craft stories that will further attract and retain our current donors, right? Cool. Let's talk about what you do. I mean, we all know what a hospice center is, right? And we don't want to just craft tales, right? This is not a story where it's like all the families gather, everybody's happy and everything like that, right? People are dying, right? And this is a real life matter that people sometimes don't want to talk about, okay? What does that end of life journey look like? So many people have been helped by Friends of Caroline Hospice, and they've done a tremendous job. Our own family, actually, we've been impacted by their work. We know firsthand how their generosity and their professionalism truly helps a family cope with loss of life. When we sat down with their ED, that was a story that we wanted to tell. Tell you something really cool about Edify. Not only do we just help people, capture the stories, but we also will sit with you and help you to write out the story. When we sat with their ED, we actually put together the entire framework. We wrote out the entire treatment, the film treatment is what we call it, for this piece. And there are multiple stories like this, but we're going to showcase this one today.
Yeah, I'm Terry Pfeiffer, and I'm grateful to Friends of Caroline Hospice and all their services over the time that my wife was dying. My wife in this picture is Margaret Walker Pfeiffer. She was very kind and very generous. She always provided food for people. Though there wasn't quite enough for an unexpected group of people, Margie had a great capacity to always include them, and was very kind. And she worked for social justice. She was a great advocate. Margie had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The last 2 years of her life, she was under hospice care, and it was wonderful. They provided medical care, they provided a nurse on call at all times, a social worker, and Chaplain Steve Scudder. Reverend Scudder came to visit us and provided counseling for my dying wife and for me, and he was very, very helpful during that time when we all knew that Margie was dying. She was suffered in her last few days very much, was under full hospice care, went to the hospital in Beaufort, South Carolina, where she had the best care possible from hospice, and so did I. It comforted and helped and guided me through a very, very painful, difficult time. Margie trusted Reverend Steve Scudder, and they worked out some wonderful things like making, for our 7 grandchildren, a memory box, which she started on right away, and made these little boxes with all the nice memories of the times with those grandchildren. And everything, she wanted to give them to them when she died, which I did. Others she gave earlier, those who had graduated. So that was helpful. I am so grateful. I'm very, very grateful for all the help that hospice here and Reverend Steve Scudder particularly have provided and still do for me, who miss my sweetheart every day, and was just a dear, beloved soul who really cared for human beings, and still does through her friends and family and through me.
All right. You guys like it? Yeah. So what was really powerful about that piece is that it's authentic, right? Mm-hmm. Going back to some of the previous slides, we talked about having something that evokes emotion. I remember when we showed these series, because there's other videos of different people, and not a dry eye, you know. And so, not to say that, you know, like, high five, that's what we want, right? But, you know, we do want to be able to have the authenticity that it will evoke the real emotions, whether that's laughter, joy, whether that's sadness, you know, whether that's an urgency to do something. That is what you want.
So one of the cool things, I guess we mentioned this, that Edify focuses on nonprofit organizations, that our services are for nonprofits. And the really cool thing, one really cool thing about that is we get to work with organizations that we really believe in, that we support the work that they do, and that the work is really meaningful. And so Friends of Caroline Hospice obviously served Jamie and Jen's family, but simultaneously my mom went through the hospice process as well. And so this stuff is meaningful to us. But also, here's another one of our clients, National Council of Negro Women. We get to work with varied clients, right? And this organization, if you've never heard of them, you should look them up. They were started by Mary McLeod Bethune back in, what was it, 1932, was it? So a very long time ago. And this organization is all about fighting for the rights and the needs of women, right? And so this is basically a brand video that helps to tell why they exist and why their work is meaningful, why it's important to them.
I first heard about the work of NCNW as an elementary student. In Black History, I remember clearly seeing the picture and learning about the story of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, who was our founder. But it wasn't until my collegiate days, I became a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and Dr. Bethune was one of our honorary members, and I read about the intentionality of NCNW. And at those days of her pulling this organization together, what I learned and understood was that she was a revolutionary with the legacy of Mary McLeod Bethune and the legacy of Dorothy Heights, and learning more about their contributions in this world. Everything and all of the women that they've touched. We're now playing for the next generation of women.
Who am I to complain that things are a little bit hard today, that no one is listening, that no one is advocating for inclusion and equity today, that's my burden to carry? Shut up, do the work. You are here to meet your moment in history. And that is what this organization means to me. It stands for movement.
I learned of NCNW through Secretary Alexis Herman, who came to Washington, D.C. with President Carter in 1977 as the Labor Department's Women's Bureau Director. NCNW membership means to me that I am not only channeling my mother's legacy, but that I am affiliated with an organization that is devoted to the well-being of Black women and the communities in which they live.
Going to Spelman, one of the things you first learn at Spelman is about our history, our story, overlaid over what you learned growing up. And it's so eye-opening. And so to see this amazing organization and how it was founded and how powerful Black women were even back then, when it was oppressive and when there were so many systems and processes to try to hold us down. And women coming together in particular to stand in their power was a really amazing thing. And it always has stood out to me just how amazing those initial women were and how it has grown to continue to be just amazing badass.
My membership in NCNW means to me a continuation of the genealogy of Black women's or radical Black women's organizing. NCNW has had a sustained approach to the way they engage women of African descent in their communities, and that's something that really resonates with me. And I'm someone who wants to, contribute to the continuation of that legacy and organize with women intergenerationally and across the diaspora around Black women's issues and things that affect our communities. And that's what my membership has meant to me, sustaining that legacy.
NCNW membership is important because it represents an organization that represents all of us as Black women. I believe that in the day that we live in today, in 2025, it's important that NCNW is seen in the broader marketplace as an influencer of influencers, because Black women are the CEO of their household in most cases. They are certainly the person that controls the pocketbook, and most organizations, and frankly most data will tell you that women control the spend across all households. NCNW has an opportunity to reach and touch all Black women because of its member organization. So if NCNW doesn't touch them directly, they touch them through the organizations that are a part of NCNW.
NCNW means that it is the organization that has the greatest ability to mobilize Black women towards the common good. They bring together influencers of influencers who have an outsized impact on culture.
My membership personally means a lot to me because of my relationship with Dorothy Height. But the other thing that the organization means to me in terms of a leadership role is it allows me the opportunity to work with some incredible women and incredible organizations to help expand the mission in terms of what we do on a real way.
NCNW connects history, legacy, and current state of Black women together, almost in a fabric. It is probably a space, a group of women, and an organization that you feel wrapped in that quilt of history.
It's important for us to know who we are and where we come from. And I believe NCNW provides that for us and creates that so what. And being able to mobilize organizations from all over is significant for us, and we need this right now.
I am NCNW.
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 And I am NCNW.
And I am NCNW.
I am NCNW.
I am NCNW.
Black women are NCNW. NCNW?
One of the things I love about this project is that, it was produced the way it was produced for several reasons. There were no nameplates, lower thirds, or anything. But what you should know is there's some very powerful women in that video, from VPs of Amazon to Goldman Sachs, former deputy of the Department of Labor for the federal government is in there, and former president of ABC. So there's some really powerful women in that film. And one of the things I really appreciated about that is that as we listen to them and hearing their stories, they're so powerful. So if you heard a couple of them talk about the founder, Mary McLeod Bethune. If you don't know who Dorothy Height is, you need to look her up, right? They were powerful women, but then their legacy is this cadre of other powerful women, right? Who knew Dorothy Height or who was inspired when they were in college by this story, right? And when you hearing them tell their stories is really, really impactful. It's like personally transformational, beneficial. So that's deep.
Why did you not use nameplates?
Well, actually, I was going to say the client actually requested that.
Yeah.
Because I literally asked the client again yesterday, hey, do you want me to put some nameplates on here before we, go and upload this to you? And she said no. And the reason why, she did not want people to be distracted by positions,
By the
titles. Because when Chris says there's this level of power in the room, there's a level of power there, right?
A lot of power.
A lot of power. And so what she wants people to focus on, the reason why we did that video, again, we talked about why you're telling the story. The reason why they wanted that type of film is because there's so much, to Chris's point, history and legacy. And they wanted different age groups of women, older, younger, all these women in the room, to tell why they are in NCNW to further attract potential new coming members.
And that they want to show that collective power.
Yeah.
Not that this person is Goldman Sachs and this person is Amazon, but that our stories together, which was the point of the video, we are NCNW. We are this league of women that support the needs and the issues facing women. So it's a really powerful, powerful story.
Absolutely. So we want to be very mindful of time. Now it's your turn. Okay? So all of you have paper, you have pens. Sure, you remember how to write, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got paper, we got pens. What we want to do, we want to focus on, if you have a business, if you have a brand, whatever that business or brand is, or even if you just want your brand to be you. So Angela, you might say, do you have a business?
Yeah, I'm going to interior design.
Are you for real? Dang. Woo-hoo. So there you go, right? So you already have a name? You don't have to say it out loud, but you don't? Okay. So just Angela's interior design business, okay? Brandon, what about you, man? You got something you want to?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we want all of you to focus on, like I said, a business or a brand that you have. If you don't have something, it could just be about you, all right? Now, we're going to act as if each and every one of you are our respective clients, okay? So what we will do, after we get all of this information from you, we do a discovery process, we will produce what's called a film treatment, okay? Now, this is what I want all of you to think about, okay? So Jen, I want you to think about this promo or commercial that we're going to shoot after we produce this film treatment for you. I want you to think about what kind of promo or commercial is this? What do I mean by that? We've shown you guys two types of film that we have created. We have other types. We don't have time for all of that. The types that we've shown you.
Yeah, but I mean, no, listen, it's important. It's important because we're delivering for the client what they asked for.
Exactly.
Right? But if this is not the kind of product that you want, then let's talk about what that looks like and let's talk about how we can bring it to life. The concept is, how do we make your story come to life?
Exactly. So the films that you all have seen, they had talking heads. You guys understand what a talking head is? Right? You saw people talking. Okay.
60 minutes.
Yeah. So do you want your promo piece, Tree? Do you want it to be something where there's talking heads? Is there going to be Tree talking and over here is Tree's moving? Like, is that what you want, right? Think about it. Maybe it is, and that's cool. Do you not want to have any talking heads and just only visuals? Or do you want to have some dope visuals and maybe there's a narration that undergirds it, right? So now no one sees the talking head, But we have Kat here talking like, you know, beautiful scars, you know, like whatever she might do, right? All right. Now, once all of you have figured out what sort of promo you want, if you want something with talking heads, narration under visuals, no narration, only visuals, we're going to proceed to the next step. So do you all kind of have an idea of what sort of promo you want? Yeah. Is that a yes? All right, excellent. Now, we're going to go through all the steps of our framework. What I want you to do, write down briefly, very succinctly, what is your origin story? How did your business brand, you know, if it's just you, how was it created, right? What brought this to life?
And the more important question there is the why, right?
Yes.
Why are you doing this?
Yes.
What made you decide on this?
So I'm gonna give you guys a few minutes to jot that down. You know, Jen, why was the Moxie created? What was the driving force behind that?
And it can't just be, I want to be my own boss and set my own hours.
Yeah.
Oh, no, don't say that. Because even if that's what it is, don't say that.
Don't say that.
Don't tell that to your clients. I knew I wanted to be my own boss and set my own hours. No oversight.
No oversight. No oversight.
No accountability. So here it is.
Exactly.
And then what's your mission?
Well, hold on. Yeah, let them get past that part. I don't want to confuse them. I get confused.
Now, film treatment and the type of commercial are two separate.
This is, don't worry about the film treatment. That's us.
Oh, okay, got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So we'll take what you have and then we'll put it together into the film that you want. And when you're done, like in school, just put your pen down. And remember, we're not crafting tales. Give me the authentic you, Kat. Let me know exactly who you are. Might need some more paper. Jess looks like she's running out. Yes, ma'am. All right, I see some pens down. All right. Good.
You're gonna pick on me more. Did you say that you just wanted to? No. You didn't want to?
Yeah, I did.
Anymore? You were tired of it?
Oh,
Like she annoyed me.
She was like, I just want my own. I just want my own snacks.
She didn't get on my nerves.
She's like, I just want my own
No, I
snacks.
kicked you out of your room. No. You can read it.
What is that Hustle?
Historic.
Oh, historic. This is Hustle.
No, a girl doesn't hustle. It stresses out her nervous system too much.
No, that's really good. All right, guys, we'll give you one more minute and then Dr. Thompson will proceed. Did you raise your hand, Angela? Oh.
Scratch my head.
You understand?
Let's go writing.
True, you're good?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Just waiting on Danny. You about ready? All right, Chief. Go ahead.
All right, so what's your mission? And twofold, what's the mission of the organization? But then what is the mission of this actual promo? Like, what are you trying to accomplish with the promo? What are you trying to accomplish with your organization, with your company? But what is this actual promo designed to emote, designed to ask them to do?
An example real quick. We're working with the Tremendous United Way here of the Low Country. They have a new initiative, their mobile showers, that is absolutely needed and stupendous. They wanted to craft a promo that really highlights, a film that really highlights these mobile showers, right? What we did, we sat down with them and we were able to help them to decide that they didn't really want talking heads. They wanted the visuals. They wanted a little bit of narration underneath, but the visuals need to be strong enough that it tells a story, okay? They needed this film so that when they go to other agencies, they're doing presentations, so potentially for like a donor tool, a donation tool, right? We crafted something that is so, I'm just patting ourselves on the back, but it is so beastly, like it is so amazing. And I can't wait until it's done. We start filming next month. So I can't wait until it's done and for you all to see that. Powerful story. But it highlights their exact mission of the brand, but that very specific mission of the mobile showers.
And so it's focused on what they want that actual promo to do, right? How do they want people to experience the actual advertisement? You know, why are they watching it? What do they want them to get out of it? So what is yours? What's your mission? Write your mission down.
You already got a tree?
So what,
you did?
Working with nonprofits, right, and or companies, what missions do you usually hear from them? Like as far as like, I want this video for this. What do they say?
Oh, well, let's use NCNW. You know, they're all about advocating for women, right? And so notice their mission is to inspire and to empower women, right? Well, that actual video was all about bringing women together to inspire more women to join them, right? So obviously it depends on the client, but for them, it was about women. Yeah. For Friends of Caroline, they're all about coming alongside of families who are journeying through the end of life, right? And so, you know, the story that is on that film is for donors, but it's also for families so that they can see that somebody can relate to their, you know, to their experience.
And I'll just add, you know, we just talked about United Way. So their tagline now is United is the way, right? So all of us, right, as a group effort, we can help our community. The story, the film that you will see that comes out of that totally captures it. One of the things that we talked about when we sat in a meeting with them, if your tagline is United is the way, well, what is the way? I'm a person who tends to get lost a lot, you know, when I'm like walking. I'd ask Chris like how to get back downstairs. So I get lost a lot. When you think about accomplishing change, there has to be direction, okay? United is, you talked about having your sidekick come alongside you. Mm-hmm. So United is that entity that comes alongside people who are in need, communities that are in need.
And organizations that are developing services.
That are in, yes, exactly. And it provides that direction to the way. So yeah, we're really, I can't wait till that is done. All right, is everybody done with this?
You guys got it? You got your mission?
All right, so now I want you to write, what solutions do you provide as a business, an entity, a startup? What solutions do you provide? And be specific.
And obviously, in order to answer that, you got to be clear on what the problem is, right? The problem that you're trying to solve. So once you identify what that problem is, what solution do you provide? Otherwise, your clients don't need you, right? So you know what the problem is. Well, what's the solution? You got to have it, or else you're not going to have a company for long.
All right, so I see pens down. Lastly, how are your clients a part of that story? Okay, how are your clients a part of that story? So, what do we mean by that? I'll jump back to the United Way, okay? Again, they not only service community members, they service communities at large, and they also service other nonprofits, right? So when we are creating this initial film needs to be the thing that they want it to be the thing that automatically will just grab people and how it causes people to gravitate to them, right? So we have to show how other organizations, how other entities, how community members, how they are part of the story. And the particular film that we will be shooting, it highlights that. Because it highlights there are some parts of the film, and this is only a 60-second film, but we're going to encapsulate all of this in these 60 seconds. There are scenes where we see some of their community partners working with community members in need. They are a part of their story. It benefits all.
And so as you're thinking about that, remember, story brand marketing, you're thinking about the adverse of that, the other side of that coin is that not only how are they a part of your story, but how are you entering into their story, right? How is it that you are helping them to be the superhero, to be the hero? Because really, that's kind of the answer to that question. You know what I mean? If you make their story the center of your focus, then you understand how you fit, you know, how they come into your story, how you come into theirs.
Excellent. I see a lot of pens down. I'm waiting for Jess, waiting for Kat, Brandon. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Angela, you done? Oh, so you, I thought you were done. All right. Waiting on Angela, waiting on Kat.
Don't put on the spot. You don't have to. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take pictures and I'm trying to, like, because I don't know how to say no. I'm from the Midwest. I'm sorry.
Nah, that's all right. You're doing a good job. Doing a good job. She okay?
Can you teach the class?
I understand. All right, everybody. I think everyone is done. So now it is that very significant part of the class where we have people share. Who's our first volunteer? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name's Michelle.
If you don't mind, Michelle, do you mind if you stand up? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Get out of the chair. My name is Michelle Barker.
Hi, Michelle.
And I'm with Habitat for Humanity of the Low Country, and I'm their communications and development specialist.
Nice.
Our message, well, the type of promo that I would like to do is kind of a combination of talking heads and the narration over the visuals.
Very nice.
And I say that because we have, I want to bring in homeowners who have been through the building process.
Nice.
And show that building process, show them in class when they're taking their financial ed classes and all of that. Now the origin was that people needed affordable housing. There's a gap. And it's getting wider. You have the haves and the have-nots, and now it's kind of like the have-nots are kind of creeping up a little bit, where even a middle-class family has trouble buying a house.
Yeah.
So our mission is to basically get those homes and get people in homes. But it's also to let people know that it's not just having bricks and mortar. It's the stability of having a home to come to, the stability of not having a landlord be able to sell out and tell you got to move in 30 days. It's having a place for family to gather that will hopefully stay in the family. It's for generations. It's not just for Mr. and Mrs. Jones and their 2 kids. It's a place for their 2 kids to bring their kids and to make to create community, and for them not to just be people in an apartment of 500 units. They have next door neighbors. They have across the street neighbors. So it's more to it than just building a house. The other part is we don't give these houses to these people.
They work
These
for 'em.
folks, They do sweat equity. They take lots of classes. I've attended some, and sometimes they're like mind-blowing. They get a mortgage. It's a no interest mortgage, but they get a mortgage just like everybody else. So they have house payment. But the thing about that is that it's I hate to be cliche, but it truly is a hand up and not a hand out.
Absolutely.
And I think that goes a long way into instilling confidence and pride in what they have.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to get to our donors, is that they can play a part of this, because we've got to have money to build the house for them to buy the house. So the solutions that we provide, first of all, are the applications that the families fill out, and then that goes over, committee decides who is actually qualified as far as need, financial ability to pay.
No, wait, let's be clear. The solution that you provide are family homes.
Yes.
Right? You're talking about the process, but the solution is family homes that people can feel safe and affirmed in their space.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Okay, I'm glad you corrected me.
Yeah.
But the thing that is, the big question to how are your clients part of your story, they are our story.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
If they didn't need houses, we wouldn't exist.
That's it.
And so my thing is, how do I portray that in a way that's not been done so many times before?
Well, listen, first of all, I'm a big fan of Habitat. I know several Habitat families, and I can already kind of see this together, so we should probably work together. But I think what's most important is that the local and authentic stories, you can't duplicate those. Those make the actual treatment so much more powerful and unique, because there are people's personal and unique stories. I love it.
I would like to show is kind of the old before, during, and after.
Sure.
I think.
Where were they living? What's the process like? We've had some because of COVID, and because the southern affiliate and the northern affiliate in Beaufort County merged, so we got put behind. But we, in the last 12 months, we've put 15 families in homes.
Amazing.
Jeez.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
We just
That's
finished
incredible.
our 192nd house.
Wow. Congratulations. Yeah.
So it's very gratifying. It's very gratifying, and I want people to see the before, during, and after.
Well, let me challenge you just a little
Yes.
bit in that, because I can see how it's useful for donors, but it's also useful for potential families. Right? So that they can see how they can become a Habitat family.
And I was going to add real quick, so I want to try to get another volunteer, and then I know we have to close out. Jess, are we okay? Okay. So I want to add real quick, your treatment, Michelle, like this is what we do. Like we love this. We're story nerds, just like you said, right? I can automatically see you have 3 tracks, okay? 60 seconds, possibly 90 seconds. 3 tracks. You have 3 separate stories that are all told.
Blended together.
But they're blended together.
Yeah.
You might have one story where it's an entire family, husband, wife, some kids. Church is real important in this community, right? So maybe you have a scene where the family's at church.
Praying.
The church knows that they're about to get this new home. Yeah, they're praying over, whatever.
Yeah.
You have another scene where maybe it's a single parent, a single father. People always like to use the cliche of single moms. So let's do a single father, okay? You got the single father. He's getting ready, packing up. You might even see him working with you guys. So we have that scene, right? So he's working,
Sweat
helping
equity.
put in the sweat equity. And then the other family member, what do you think about that? Or not other family member, the other story.
Do you guys have seniors who receive homes?
Yes.
See? That's
There you go.
Killer.
There you go. Diversity.
That's a killer.
Diversity. Yeah. I love it. And you have those 3 tracks that run together and then culminates into this
So it
sort of
would have
compelling
to be
closing.
The same person.
No.
for all 3 families.
No.
No.
You want to show the diversity.
Yeah, you want to show the diversity,
Different
yeah.
kinds of people experiencing this process. It's almost like it's so easy, even a caveman could do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. But local stories.
Yeah.
That is why we want to make sure we
That's
tap
crucial.
into some of the things that's very key or keen to this area, right? So church would be huge.
So remember, we talked about, if you help the client win, you win, right?
Yeah.
And the power behind this story is that this is what you guys literally do. You help families win. And so watch this. My good friend, Kevin, was one of the people who got the house. I'm sharing that on Facebook. Yo, look at my man, Kevin. He got his new house. You can do it too, kind of thing. Yeah. That's amazing. Yo. We want to shoot that.
So real quick, before we close out, let me get one more volunteer. Rodrigo? All right, come on.
Mine will be pretty quick and concise.
All right.
Rodrigo DeVore, Trio Life Insurance Group. For the idea of the promo, I want everything, right? I want everything in it. But I really ultimately want to go with the vision of the team once they hear the story. Once they hear the story, I'm sure their expertise will kick in. They could, go into the right direction. Because right now, I just kind of want a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. Origin. Why did the Tree of Life Insurance Group come to be? Because some of my friends died. And they were young, and they didn't have life insurance. They had families. They left them behind.
That's heavy.
Destitute. Right?
Wow, heavy.
Mission. To provide a sustained lifestyle and legacy in the case of the untimely demise of the provider. So the father that was working to pay the mortgage, or the mother that was working to pay the mortgage, the grocery. If that individual was uprooted from the family's life, what happens to the remaining spouse? How much more of a financial burden, a time burden? What happens to the development of the kids? Of course, money can't substitute the life of the parent, but at the same time,
I got it.
That's good.
How much more is taken away from them when not only their presence is gone, but now they're struggling financially, right? And so the solution, I help provide the life insurance, the disability, in case something does happen dire to one of the providers, and that helps sustain the family throughout the course of life. And then the story of, or how are the client story a part of my story? Because we're all in the same, literally every single person in here in the same category. We are all inevitably going to die, as grim as that seems, but none of us know when, unless we pull our own card, right? But still, that is...
And you don't get insurance money for that.
Yeah.
Actually, you do after 2 years. You just got to keep your life insurance part for 2 years. You can pull your own cord. That's a loophole.
Are you serious?
Okay.
So just in case.
Yeah, keep
said just in case. You were crazy. All right, cool. Yes, ma'am.
But you can do it also too about doing life insurance on your children, because nobody thinks about that.
That is true.
And
that's heavy
there
too.
are children,
That's heavy.
Teenagers, all that. And
Untimely demise.
untimely demise, and I will say, if I saw a commercial or a thing about that, I would really think that would require me to think outside, definitely outside of myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nobody wants to think about it, but
Yeah.
probably should.
It is a detriment for a child to die, and that's a financial burden.
And a lot of the times, the parents just stop living
It is
because
true.
it's so hard to get over that type of loss.
That's heavy. So, no, right? So,
no, it's kind of helping.
Yeah. So,
But that's what got me to buy my son's life insurance, is because when I went to go sign up for my own, the person that was helping me said, I know this is something that you don't want to think about. She's like, but my daughter was in a car accident at 11 years old. And she's like, and it left me at a standstill. She's like, bills don't get paid, nothing.
So real quick though, and I appreciate that insight. Because we're pressed for time though, I want to hop on this. 60 seconds, 90 seconds. You say you want everything, right? Everything. So what if we were to break it down where there's no talking heads in yours, not in the regards of what we've seen, right? What if yours is like a full-fledged story, like it's a 60-second film, right? Where we have maybe there's a funeral scene, right? The casket is closed. You got people coming up. It's not something where everybody's like crying and all of that. It's more of like, hey man, maybe we knew this time was coming, right? Nothing that's going to be like so just cumbersome and overburdening for people who are watching the film, right? The last scene, maybe it's a father that died. You have a picture of him. Child comes up, maybe it's a mother or a family relative, holding the child. And then the last line is something to the effect of, he always had us covered, or he always took care of us. Yeah, you like that, right?
I do like it.
All right, man. Yeah. So you see how like something like that like really helps you tell the story You don't need talking heads for that, right? You allow the visuals to be compelling enough to get across. And all of a sudden your slogan comes up. I don't know what your slogan is, you know, tree of life, don't leave. So you have the slogan come up, and then your call to action, whatever that might be. All right. Listen, guys, before we close out, I know you wanted to cover this real quick.
Oh, it's, you know, you want to avoid being too vague or too generic. And we talked about this. Your story shouldn't be only focused on you. You want to enter into the story of your client, or else you're doing it wrong. And then, of course, you don't want to be missing a clear call to action. Obviously, you know about the tools and resources that are out there to help you tell your story. Anything from free tools like Canva to ChatGPT, or to the pro ChatGPT version. You'd be amazed at what that stuff can do. And along with design products like Canva and DaVinci Resolve for video. That's more of our space, but these are all resources you use. You also want to be mindful too that something as simple as your phone. We say all the time in photography and cinematography, the best camera there is the one you have. So you'd be amazed at what can happen. You just break out your cell phone and start recording and start taking pictures. You would never know how valuable those pictures are of those houses that you're building, or people building the houses, how useful that stuff is when we start making videos, okay?
Absolutely.
And then, of course, Osmo Pocket and GoPro.
Real quick, I wanted to highlight DaVinci Resolve. This is a studio standard, an industry standard. You can download it for free. All right. DaVinci Resolve will allow you, if you're taking a film with your phones, especially if you have a newer phone like the iPhone 15, 16 and above, Google Pixels, they now shoot in 4K. And the Samsung phones, you can take it to DaVinci Resolve and color grade, meaning make it look like film, right? For free. ChatGPT, Dr. Thompson talked about that. Use that for writing support. There's nothing wrong with that. Use it for writing support. Osmo Pocket 3, we have one. We meant to bring it, but I think we left it at another shoot. Basically, Osmo Pocket, GoPro, if you know what those are, they're tiny little handheld action cams. You can use those to film your stories, to film your own commercials, and they're not expensive. An Osmo Pocket 3 runs about $600. A GoPro runs you about $300-400, okay? If any one of you pick those up and you guys want to reach out to us and let us show you how to use it and make some dope film, we can help you do that, okay?
The new GoPros shoot in 4K, don't they?
Oh, no, yeah, they've been shooting 4K, yeah.
All right, key takeaways?
Key takeaways, make sure you build stories that build trust and create connection. Your story is the most powerful tool that you have. Lastly, use our framework. If you are getting ready to start your own marketing and you're like, hey, I think I can do this on my own, use the framework that we provided you. If you guys want to reach out to us, make sure, give us a shout.
And we already heard some really cool stories in here today, so that's really cool.
No.
Very cool.
Any questions?
We are way over time, but we will answer your questions.
Get in touch with you first, and then we'll end the stream.
Yeah, actually, real quick, Brandon. Yes.
I was going to ask, copy of this.
Yeah, sure.
No,
sure.
we could definitely do that. We could shoot you a copy. Or, yeah, I'm sorry.
We'll share a copy of the presentation with everyone, all of our attendees, so you guys will get it.
Absolutely. You can reach out to us. So right now we are doing some maintenance on our website. Our website will be back up before this weekend. Our website is edifyanother.com. So there's that, edifyanother.com. Or you can reach out to us individually, Jamie at edifyanother.com, JAMIE.
And I'm
or
Chris.
Christopher
at Edify Another.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Now, you guys are going to have to excuse me.